The love story of Romeo and Juliet. The story of Romeo and Juliet revolves around a conflict between two very ancient families of the largest families in the Italian city of Verona, namely the Capulet family and the Montague family. This conflict is an eternal conflict, but its cause is not known yet, and despite this conflict between the families until it emerged among them are the two most famous lovers in history, Romeo of Montague and Juliet of Capulet. The closest friend of Romeo was called Marcio, and he was a relative of the Prince of Verona, and he always helped Romeo and tries to belittle him. One day, Romeo learned about the existence of a masquerade party held annually for the Capulet family. So he decided to go with his friend Marcio and Benvolio to this party. And there he met Juliet for the first time. He fell in love with her at first sight, and although Romeo was going to the party to meet his girlfriend Rosaline, when he met Juliet, he learned that his love for Rosaline was not true love at all, so he found his true love in Juliet. Romeo and Juliet fell in love with each other, but fate was on the lookout for them. Juliet's cousin, who called Tybalt, tried to quarrel with him, so Juliet's father rushed to intervene and prevented the quarrel because Romeo was the guest of the party, a young man known for his noble morals, and at the end of the ceremony he learned both Romeo and Juliet are fourth families from eternity. And here all the difficulties began and the story of impossible love began. After the ceremony was over, Romeo went to the garden of Juliet's house and met her, and they agreed to marry secretly the next day. Together they went to the priest who agreed to marry them, believing that this marriage could reconcile the dispute between the families. Not noticing that there is a relative of the Prince of Verona claiming Paris made Juliet's speeches without her knowledge, which was greatly shocked by the news, and she is now married to Romeo. Juliet went to the priest and told him everything, so he decided to help her. Then Tybalt came looking for Romeo to fight. But Romeo refused to fight because he had become his kinship despite everything. And only four knew about this marriage. They were Romeo and Juliet, the priest and a maid. Juliet, and when Tybalt insisted on fighting, Marcio decided to intervene and fight him, until he was killed by Tybalt, who fled and left Romeo burning in anger and vowed to avenge his friend. After that, Romeo succeeded in avenging a friend and killing Tybalt, so he was sentenced to exile outside the country. The news reached Juliet, who decided to stand by her husband until the end, and they decided to leave for the city of Mantua, without Romeo knowing that his mother had passed away from grief over him. Days passed, and Juliet's father decided to announce her marriage to the relative of the Prince of Verona, so Juliet rushed to seek the help of the priest who told her his plan. As he decided to send a messenger to the city of Mantua to inform Romeo of the news. Then Juliet was given a medicine that made her look completely dead for 2 full days until the date of marriage was missed. But unfortunately, the apostle was not able to reach Romeo, and the news of Juliet's death spread everywhere until it reached the ears of Romeo, who was not aware of anything about the plan until this moment. Romeo went mad and rushed to the cemetery of the Capulet family. He found Juliet lying in her coffin, and he looked at her in sadness and pain, and she became more beautiful and bright, and in the cemeteries Paris met with Romeo. And he thought that he wanted to defile Juliet's grave because he is a family of enemies, so the two rivals fought and killed Romeo Paris, and Romeo was carrying a small vial of poison with him. Romeo dosed the poison and fell dead next to Juliet, who woke up after the medication was gone, to find Romeo dead next to her, and without thinking, Juliet took a dagger and implanted it in her heart to die as well. After that, everyone from the families came to the grave and witnessed the calamity, and the priest told them everything. And the families reconciled and decided to erect 2 statues of Romeo and Juliet of gold to commemorate their memory in the city, so that everyone could remember well that the two families were the cause of the death of their 2 sons, and that the 2 lovers were the reason for reconciliation between them.